All right, guys. Welcome to round two. We've got Stefan Giovanni versus Huamin, and we are just jumping in here. I know these guys are a little bit kind of already going, but we are just catching them at what looks like 2 turns in, as turn 1 was 2 lessons on the bottom here, and then homework, which is a nice way to get a little extra leg out of a little extra leg room, I was going to say. A little extra leg room out of that one action. Pep Talk, of course, restricting us to one action is Stefan's follow-up play. He's starting here with Lee Jordan, which he's not kidding. He said he was going to play a starting character that didn't see as much play. Lee Jordan lets him use an action to reveal the top 3 cards of his deck and put all the cards that need Quidditch power into his hand. There could be a lot of card advantage, especially if your deck is packed to the gills with cards that need Quidditch power. And speaking of cards that need Quidditch power, we've got Quaffle here. This is one of the new revival cards for Arrow Slytherin. Quaffle is going to be when you play the card Search Your Deck, take a match from your deck, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Of course, Quaffle also is an item that is going to be providing us that Quidditch lesson. And the nice thing about cards like this is they're basically 2-for-1s. Quaffle gives you that lesson and replaces itself with a more relevant card in your hand. You get the benefits of having Quaffle in play, having that extra lesson as if you had used an action to play a lesson, but it's strictly better, as you're going to be able to go ahead and get something else. So looks like Pep Talk is going to get discarded, and I'm not sure which. Oh, we used Picking on Neville on it as removal. So yes, that is one weakness for Pep Talk. Pep Talk doesn't have anything that prevents the opponent from using any type of card. It just says what they have to use their first action on. So, of course, we used our first action to draw a card, and our second action was Picking on Neville to get rid of the Pep Talk. And because Stefan did not want to sacrifice any of the lessons he'd built yet, he went ahead and discarded the Pep Talk. That's fine. Hufflepuff Match is the card that we got off of Quaffle, and it's coming down here. Hufflepuff Match is going to be when we deal 8 damage to our opponent, we're going to get an extra 5 damage in the form of them taking an extra 5, and us, we're going to draw 5 cards here. So it's going to be a nice way to refill your hand while dealing that extra bonus 5 damage, since you're trying to deal 8 damage to them anyway. And then he used Dodging the Bludger, which is going to be 2 damage to your opponent. Then you draw a card, and then you can put a Quidditch lesson from your hand into play. Another one of those new revival cards that's really trying to push Quidditch a bit faster, get it to just be a more competitive archetype, because Quidditch is lagging a little bit behind its brother and sister colors. So, of course, that new card is going to get us 3 actions basically worth of advantage here that we're going to use to do 2 damage, get Hufflepuff Match going, put another lesson into play, bringing us up to a total of 5. And let us draw a card. Looks like the answer is going to be Invisibility section. It's going to be choose one of your opponent's cards in play and discard it. And then he or she chooses one of your cards in play and discards it. Very, very fair 1-for-1. Looks like we are going to get rid of Hufflepuff Match. And in return, Stefan says, fine, just go ahead and get rid of one of your lessons. No, forgive me if I'm a tiny bit slow to talk here, guys. I'm trying to eat dinner, do 2 things at once, you know? Of course, this is the first week, so we're not streaming this, but I am recording these matches. So these matches are going to go up on the Dark Mark website. I'll also be sharing them to the Discord group and the Facebook, of course. So that players can see some commentated matches, maybe get a different kind of insight on these cards and the different games that we're seeing here. It's fun for me because I love commentating for our card games. I do a lot of Final Fantasy TCG myself, and I also like hosting these tournaments for you guys. It's great to have everybody get together, be able to come out and play. So we're going to go to a 5th Transfiguration lesson here, and we are going to play Lost Notes, which lets us choose one of the items and get rid of it. We're going to get rid of one of those Quidditch items because Stephen is just loading up on him. We have 2 bludgers come into play here. We're going to use a foul to remove one of our opponent's actions. And yeah, these bludgers are about to just start coming around. I don't see any beater's bat on our opponent's side of the table, which means these bludgers are going to be dealing plenty of damage. It's 3 damage because the match is in play before each turn. And of course, 3-month-long match is a really, really big card here. It's asking you to deal 30 damage to your opponent while the card's in play. But your reward is basically that you win, right? Because 30 damage is going to take plenty of turns. The reward is that you deal an extra 15 damage. So 3-month-long match is looking to just sit here, and it's waiting for us to get plenty of damage in here. And it looks like actually we're going to use Drawing the Sword 2. Does drawing the sword deal damage to just characters? Divided any number of creatures. So drawing the sword, I don't believe, counts towards the match. Oh no, they weren't counting that towards the match. Sorry, they were just adding the bludger damage. So yeah, it's going to go up to 10. Oh, those were the damage he took. Sorry, he didn't play drawing the sword. Looks like we are going to go ahead and reveal the top cards. We should only be revealing the top 3 cards, right? Yeah, so we put 1 card back on the deck. Alright, so we're revealing 3 cards. And then we're going to choose one, or choose all of them and add them to our hand. Pulling up is going to be one of those cards we get there. It's going to deal 2 damage to the opponent, then draw 2 cards. It's kind of keeping the pace up, putting more numbers onto, there it is, 2 more counters on 3-month-long match. And it looks like it's going to be a clean sweep 7 coming down here from Stefan. This is a broom. Brooms also, much like the bludger, provide that Quidditch lesson when they're in play. It's a really neat thing about Quidditch. They have a lot of those different items that aren't just the books that provide lessons and also have other effects. And clean sweep 7 is going to be that you look at the top 4 cards of your deck when you play it, put them back in any order, which is pretty cool. Ensures the action that you're going to get for the next few turns. You don't have to waste actions drawing cards. You already can make a plan around what you're going to see. One of the better brooms, I think. Gets to take the quality of the next 4 turns and top load them, right? Ooh, judge call here. You only get 1 action when you discard. Yes. Alright, so just because I said we always like to do the judge call questions here, question that we just got was, do you still only get 1 action when you discard Hagrid Needs Help with Professor McGonagall? Yes, that's because Hagrid says that they only get 1 action next turn, or sorry, that they get 1 fewer action even if it's solved, so no matter what happens, they always get 1 fewer action. Those bludgers are doing a lot of work here. We can see why beaters are employed with some job security. And Professor Corner's Quirrell is coming down here and was able to return all those items to Stefan's hand, which that was one drawback of a lot of his lessons being attached to those items. To kind of set him all the way back. But he was able to just slam those 2 bludgers out next turn, which is pretty strong. Oh wait. How did he play those bludgers without the lessons down, huh? I think we actually played both of these down off 2 lessons, and then the next turn we played 2 more lessons. I'm gonna have to start keeping a closer eye on these people. This is going to be a Dobby's Disappearance that we grab. Looks like we're I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. Follow it up with the Invisible Ink. Invisible Ink's going to choose 2 lessons and play and discard them. So we're trying really hard to hate on Stefan's resources here, but those bludgers are going to be what gets us, as another 6 damage means that we literally only have 2 turns left without some kind of healing. Stefan draws a card here, and that's going to be another 6 damage. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry, there was no match in play. That's right. We used Dobby's Disappearance to get rid of the match, giving us a couple more turns here. We really need to get rid of the match or the bludgers, though. Wonder if we have anything cool we can sideboard in to help deal with this Quidditch deck and all these items that are just slapping us silly. Oh boy! 2 lost notes to get rid of the 2 bludgers. That is the hardest of hard counters, friends. Ooh. A revival card, Swallowed Snitch, coming in here. We did a little bit of a card of the day in one of our earliest Dark Mark articles. Highly recommend you guys stop by and read it. But during your turn, if your hand contains at least 4 cards, you may discard this card from play, and if you do, discard your hand to win the current match. And so Stefan is kind of saying, hey, you know, I've got this Swallowed Snitch here, and I'm going to be able to discard this from play to win the match, because here he has at least 4 cards in his hand, of course, and winning the match will deal enough damage to win the game. So I think Stefan really just wanted to win the game with Swallowed Snitch there, and it's cool because he certainly did, dealing that final lethal damage there. And we are waiting for these players to reset the game, probably siding in right now. Alright, it looks like the sideboarding is done, and we are resetting and shuffling up. Alright, both players have shuffled up and we are ready to go. We are drawing our hand of 7, and remember, in the revival, you do get a mulligan, so you may return the hand to the deck and draw 7 new cards. And we're off to the races. That is going to be one of your favorite openers there. Lesson, pass. Just start to establish that mana base. It's going to be the same thing for Stefan. He's going to go ahead and play Quidditch, and we've got ourselves a gentleman's game. Transfiguration lessons number 3 and 4 come down. So if I'm looking for a Quidditch lesson and then an item here, but it's going to be actually 2 more lessons. What Stefan really wants is he would like to see a couple bludgers start to come down and start to accrue that value over time. Lee Jordan might be using an action to look at the top 3 cards of the deck here and start getting those into our hand. We are going to play Lost Notes and remove a lesson from play. It's actually action neutral, right? We're using an action just to delete one of our opponent's actions. So it's okay, but it's not as good as it might feel like it is. Stefan going to go ahead and just play another lesson down and get to that bludger anyway. Like we said, he wanted to get the bludgers down starting at 4 lessons so he can just start accruing that value. Picking on Neville going to come down and choose the bludger. It looks like Stefan opting to sacrifice 2 lessons. Oh no, picking on Neville actually looks like it's just going to be targeting a Quidditch lesson. That's interesting. I would be holding that picking on Neville. Seems like maybe we played it just because we're a little low on action in the hand. And again, this is where, and I can't stress this enough, we haven't seen any utility characters tonight. Players really need to be playing more utility characters. You need to be seeing Hannah Abbott's, Madame Pomfrey's, Severus Snape's, Peeves. You need to be seeing a lot more of these characters. These are some of the best cards in the game. Peeves able to refill our hand right here. We're having an issue where we're at so little action. We're using picking on Neville's on our opponent's lessons. What we would really like to do is you'd like to dump our hand onto the field and play a guy who discards our hand and resets it. You know, you want to be seeing a lot more cards. Once you get to the point where you're using actions to draw cards and you're kind of playing off a prayer off the top of your deck, you get yourself into a really, really bad position because you can't formulate a plan. You're just kind of playing with what you have. And you know what they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Another Transfiguration card is going to come down here. Yeah, see, look, we just spent our whole last turn drawing. That's the same thing he did. It was a call and response, draw 3. Both of these players just passed the turn. Through the Arch coming down for Stefan here. Now, Through the Arch is going to go ahead and slow down our opponent a little bit, but we really, really need to be getting a match so that our bludger starts dealing some damage. I'm sure that if he could, he'd be playing one right now. Through the Arch is going to be a little bit of an investment to slow the opponent down, though. Stop them from developing their game plan, but that's not what's going to happen at all, actually. We're just going to be slamming more lessons into play and waiting to get through that Through the Arch. We should really, if we don't have a card that's going to get rid of Through the Arch, like if we don't have Filch or McGonagall in the deck, then we really need to start solving this, because there's not going to be a better time to solve it. Quaffle is going to go ahead and search our deck for a match, so it's going to get that bludger online. See, so we wish that we had already skipped 2 of those actions, huh? Because this is exactly what he's doing, is playing this Through the Arch, trying to buy himself a couple turns worth of setup so that the bludger can start dealing damage. Through the Arch is pretty strong when your opponents are banking on spells as the only payoffs that they have post setup. That's why, again, I think some more of those utility characters are important. It gives you more action through things like Through the Arch, so that you have more to do instead of resulting to the horrendous use an action to draw a card. Ugh, I shudder to say use an action to draw a card. I know that people think that that's not so bad, but it's actually just, again, probably pound for pound one of the worst things you can use an action for. And you only get so many actions a game, so we want to be using them for strong, strong stuff. Dodging the bludger is going to be do 2 damage to your opponent, then draw a card. You may put a Quidditch lesson from your hand into play. So look at that. We used an action to do this versus using an action to draw a card. That's exactly where you want to be. You never ever want to get to a point where you're at 4 lessons and you're using an action to do something you could do on turn 1 for free. You want to be investing in things like this. Is going to be, you know, just getting us a lot of value. Now, obviously, I'm telling people, oh, you should just always have cards in your hand that you can play. Right, I get it. That's not how it works sometimes. But that's why you want to give yourself the best chance to see as many cards as you can to get good action. So Stefan does have a lot of ways to replenish his hand with like Lee Jordan and a lot of these tutor effects, these chaining synergies. But cards like Peeves, again, can help refill that hand. We had to spend a lot of turns just drawing cards here. And we see a board on Huamin's side of the field that really just hasn't changed in a couple turns. It's going to be Table Trouble. Table Trouble is a spell that you don't see too often. That's discard all items from play. yours and your opponent's. It's a real shame to see that get lost to the bludger there, because that probably got sided in for this round specifically, and it would be dealing plenty of damage against Stefan here. Looks like we did have Argus Filch, actually. We put Argus Filch into the deck, and it is going to go right to discard as well. So we do actually have another out through the arch in the deck by seeing him go to the discard pile. I don't know how many we're playing, and that's a clear sign once you lose your Filch to finish solving through the arch with actions. We're already 3 actions in anyway. But just see how bad this is for us. Stefan's he's having all this free time to just chip away at us. Pulling up here is going to just deal 2 damage and reset 2. Hufflepuff match, only 1 damage away from dealing an extra 5. And that means that we're already looking at only 1/3 of our deck remaining before we've even pretty much done anything to the opponent. I mean, we've removed a couple cards. But think about how, playing that removal on his lesson early just felt so bad. We weren't doing anything with our hand. Like, we were going to use P's to discard our hand anyway. We should have just held on to that until it was doing something more relevant, like stopping these cards that are actually stopping us from winning. We're using Creevy here to draw 3 cards. That's a little dangerous. And we do... Oh, my God. We sideboarded Grip Hook in. Oh, actually, maybe we've been playing Grip Hook the whole time because Colin Creevy is our starting character here. And we are going to use that Grip Hook. That's going to be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 damage to Stefan. That is... Wow, that is a whopping 18. Bringing him down to 10 cards in deck, meaning he's going to draw a card. Oh, man. 18 damage. That's a pretty hefty Grip Hook, friends. 2 actions for 18 isn't bad. Now, Stefan had been using a lot of actions to draw cards. This is going to give him pretty much plenty of action as far as... I use action in other card games to describe how many live cards you have in your hand. Like how many, good plays. So it looks like we have... we're going to just drop a bludger and drop a 3-month-long match. But what Stefan really wants to do is he wants these bludgers to deal another 6 damage. He wants to be able to swallow the Snitch, which I'm sure he's holding now that he's got all these cards, to go ahead and deal that extra 15 with 3-month-long match. So Stefan really just needs to get his opponent in that 15 kill range. And since his opponent will draw a card to turn, that counts. You always get 1 more free damage, because if they draw and they have no cards left in deck, they will lose. So you figure the bludgers are doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 15, and he'll draw a card. So you're 22. So yeah, this is it. You just need to be able to swallow a Snitch next turn, and you pretty much have it. We skipped that last action for Through the Arch, and now we have 1 more action, and we really are going to have to use it to get rid of 3-month-long match. It is Dobby's disappearance that one of... Yes, it is, in fact, going to get rid of 3-month-long match back to Stefan's hand. That's important. We don't want to give him that the ability to deal damage with the bludgers and then swallow the Snitch. See, because he can play the match and swallow the Snitch the same turn, but it won't deal lethal. He needs to deal another 10 or so damage first before he can do that. Now, the issue here is we desperately need another Grip Hook play. I guess 2 Collins does it, but once we start Colin Creevying, we're getting closer and closer to Stefan doing that 2-card combo to just finish the game here for us. We'll have to see. Both these players being very careful with the card totals they have left in deck, and Stefan having to really think about how he's going to not take this 8 final damage. I think he's in a pretty good position, though, honestly, if he has swallowed the Snitch, and we did see that he had a 3-month-long match. He just needs to find a way to get a couple more damage in there before he himself draws himself to oblivion, because you figure 2 Collins and 2 draws, and that's it. So he's got 2 turns. He has this turn and the next turn, and that's it. That's the end of the game. If his opponent uses 2 Collins, though. Hufflepuff match. Interesting choice. And a bludger. Interesting. That's, maybe he doesn't have swallowed the Snitch in his hand. That's going to be tough. Scribblefloor is going to go ahead and get rid of the bludger and the match. Yeah, this might be a little bit too little too late now. But that's fine, actually. Stefan is He might still have Swallow the Snitch in 3 month long. So go ahead. Oh no, that's actually going to hurt. The second Scribble 4 is that 2 lessons is going to make it hard for us to play Swallow the Snitch. That actually would have taken our win con away. Because Swallow the Snitch, let's just double check. It is a 4 cost, I think. Oh, it's a 3 cost. But unfortunately, Lee Jordan isn't providing a lesson himself. He's just kind of hanging out. He's just happy to be here, you know? That's going to be a GG there, and I believe that brings us to Game 3. Oh man, this is really cool. I love going to Game 3. That grip hook, very effective. Looks like Stefan is going to sideboard again. Wonder what exactly he's adding in as some of his tech options in the Quidditch list. Might be editing his adventure spread. Oh my god, team. I have never seen this card in play, and that's exactly what these kind of events are for. Reptile House, the adventure is coming down, and this is one of the few cards in this game I don't know off the top of my head. Reptile House is from base set, and it is your opponent can't use more than 1 action to play lesson cards during each of his or her turns. To solve, your opponent chooses 4 lessons and discards them, and the reward is they may draw a card. So Reptile House is pretty much best on turn 1, and that's in fact exactly when we found it. So Stefan goes and drops 2 lessons. Then we drop Reptile House, and now he can only build 1 lesson at a time for the rest of the game. So that means another Bludger turn 2 isn't going to happen here, but I would like to see that, and then the Clean Sweep 7. Lesson Clean Sweep would be huge here. Lesson Draw a Card might be the hole that we're pigeoned into. No, we are going to find the match, so it's going to be a 3-month-long match. We're going to get that down into play. Next turn is going to be Lesson and Bludger, hopefully. And now that he's got that, that piece of... I mean, it's not even control. Really, it is a little bit of a control piece. He's got that tax on Stefan, right? He's kind of limiting what he can play and how fast he can ramp. He's like, hey, buddy, slow down. Only attach 1 energy a turn, please. And he's going to start playing a normal game past that point, putting down 2 transfiguration lessons, himself. Now Stefan's going to go ahead and pep talk here. And pep talk is going to say that we're going to have to show a card at the beginning of every turn. And he moved the card to play and then back to his hand. It looks like we must have... I didn't quite see what the card was, but we must have shown Stefan a card that met Pep Talk's requirement. So again, Pep Talk gets removed if your opponent can show you a card with printed power needed of 8 or more. So we might be running one of those in the deck just to, the sideboard, just throw in there and solve the Pep Talks. It's a very smart inclusion in the sideboard if it was. Now Stefan realizing, okay, maybe I don't want to lean to the Pep Talks anymore. I really want to get another lesson down and do the Quidditch thing. Lee Jordan is going to be able to put some more action back in our hand, but we really, really, really want to get to our 4th lesson. Speak of the Devil, 4th lesson is down. Also, the nice thing about Stefan's deck is he's playing a lot of pseudo lessons. He's playing things like Quaffle that give him Quidditch lessons, like the Broom, that aren't lessons. So Reptile House is actually only going to stop him from playing lesson cards. It's not going to prevent him from building with any of those items that provide lessons. Madame Malkin's Robes, another card we don't see too often here. This 4-drop location going to come in and says whenever a card does damage, it does 1 less damage. And that is also really going to help mitigate some of those things coming from Stefan with the different bludgers all in play, all dealing different damage sources. The more damage sources there are, the more effective Madame Malkin's Robes is going to be. It looks like we are going to play Swallow the Snitch here. So Swallow the Snitch is going to solve 3-month-long match pretty early. Is going to discard Stefan's hand. But the cool synergy with his deck here is that since his hand had 4 cards, he's going to use this, discard his hand, win the match, deal 15 damage, and then next turn when he draws a card for turn, he's going to use Lee Jordan, and he's going to try and just refill his hand with some Quidditch action. I don't hate at all taking the shot while you have it before any kind of Scribble Forest, Dobby's Disappearance, or picking on Neville shit can come down. You want to go ahead and you just want to use your combo, dump the hand, deal that damage, and now Lee Jordan's going to hopefully refill your hand with action. 20 damage difference here in deck health total. Picking on Neville is going to come down. He's going to choose to get rid of one of the lessons. That's fine. Picking on Neville on 1 lesson is not very powerful. In fact, I'd rather save the Picking on Neville. That I don't think that's a very good use of an action or use of a Picking on Neville. And it looks like that's all we had to do for turn. So yeah, just not a lot of action here. We probably should have just drawn some cards. As bad as I always say that is, it's better. You want to hold these kind of control pieces for when they're going to be the most impactful. And Stefan doesn't even necessarily have cards to play yet, so the fact that you're getting rid of lessons doesn't really hurt him as much, especially because the magic number for him is 4, not 5. So what you want to do is you want to hold the Picking on Neville for when he does finally top deck something he can play, since he has such a small hand, and then he plays it on the field, then you get rid of it. It's going to hurt him twice as much as getting rid of one of the lessons. Stefan did hit 3 cards off the Lee Jordan, so he's going to put all of them back in hand, and one of them was dodging the Bludger. So dodging the Bludger is going to go ahead and just kind of completely undo that Picking on Neville by slamming a Quidditch lesson back in for essentially free, letting us draw a card and dealing some damage. Actually, looks like we maybe didn't have a Quidditch lesson in hand. That's fine. It would have just had to be the card we top decked, so the chances were pretty low. But it's still good. He gets to draw another card. It's that replacement effect isn't bad. And 2 damage. I mean, this is an aggro deck, and we're just trying to chump him out at this point, right? Just trying to get tiny little burns in there, nicks and knacks. And, wow, is he helping us here with just a draw 3 turn. That's, oh no, it was a Colin Creevy. Yeah, man, that's insane. Stefan's got to be happy to see the Colin Creevy getting used. It's basically just like 3 free damage for him. So he's putting, that's just 4 damage that he did to his opponent last turn because of the Colin Creevy and the turn for, drawing for turn. Through the Arch comes down, kind of slowing down that spell generation. We are going to call in response. We're going to play Argus Filch from our hand onto the table and then pass the turn to Stefan. Again, this is why Seamus and Platform 9 3/4 are really important, because they give you extra actions for turns when you play these characters, and they make playing those characters much better. A deck like this could just slap in a couple platforms and start playing Seamuses and Filches, and wouldn't feel so bad at all. Obviously, you can't platform through the Arch, but it just is a way to help get those characters set up earlier in the game so that you can use them in these types of situations. Looks like we're going to play Hufflepuff match, and Fouled. Fouled is going to put our opponent down to only 1 action next turn, meaning it's going to be, we're going to use Filch to remove the adventure, and that's going to feel good, but it's really not going to be that great for us because Stefan's able to immediately get priority back because it goes to his turn and we don't have a way to generate extra actions, and he's able to just hit us with another adventure. And every turn that we draw, it's just getting harder and harder for us. We really can't use Colin Creevy anymore, because Colin Creevy is just blasting through the rest of our deck even faster than the Bludgers. I mean, basically as fast as the Bludger would. So searching for the snitch, we're going to go ahead and find Fouled. And we're going to play Fouled on the field here. Fouled doing 4 more damage and removing that action is just going to help us chump our opponent out here. Hufflepuff match is going to resolve. It's going to be yet another 5 damage. I think, yeah, I mean, we're going to play Scribble 4s and choose 2 things here. Stefan's like, sure, whatever, I'll get rid of him. I don't think it's possible for Huamin to do enough with the turns he has left. I mean, this is literally a 6-turn clock where you can't use Creevy. I just don't think he has enough turns left to possibly win this game. We'll see. Turns out Reptile House did slow Stefan down a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, it didn't really stop him from playing anything he wanted to play. It's a really neat idea to slow down those decks who just want to slam a bunch of lessons into play. But if they can effectively play around it, you know, you basically just walk back to your first turn advantage. And actually, I think we played this in going second. So I think Stefan slammed down 2 lessons and then we played this. Which is a shame because then that's immediately a lot weaker than it could have been if we had played it before he played any lessons. I mean, that 1 turn is enough of a difference that this card goes from being like really effective to only somewhat effective. And we are going to go ahead and play Invisible Ink. Invisible Ink is going to be choosing 2 lessons and discarding them. And again, like I said, Stefan really does not care anymore at this point about his lessons. Really apt that the Quidditch song starts playing now as the Quidditch deck is about to come in here for a win in this round. Looks like all 3 of our tables are still playing too, which is exciting. These games are going a little bit late this round. We're about 10 minutes left in the round. And Stefan is going to find that clean sweep 7. He's basically just looking for any amount of burn in the top 4 cards so he can put it on top of the deck there. Anything at all. Pulling up, I think, is going to be one that he can do for 2 damage. It'll do 2 damage and he draws 2 cards. Again, like we said, that 6-turn clock, it's ticking, it's ticking, it's ticking away. And I think what we're seeing is these control strategies, they're folding to the aggro strategies because the control decks actually are... In a control deck, you need to always be in control. And once a control deck takes 1 or 2 turns to just draw 2 cards or it doesn't have any action, letting those aggro decks get just a little bit of time is all they need to really, really put the screws to you. Essential Knowledge Test is going to be here to stop us from drawing any cards that we shouldn't be drawing, but unfortunately that's not really going to prevent any damage here from Stefan. To me, playing this Essential Knowledge Test on the field is kind of like showing our belly. It basically says, hey, we don't have any action left. We don't have any real playable, relevant cards, so, I mean, we're just going to play what we can and pass, hope something better comes off the top of the deck. But Stefan basically smells the blood in the water at this point, sees that 4 cards left in deck, and he just has to survive. And it's going to be a Swallowed Snitch here. Can we even play that? How do we play that? I guess maybe we're just talking it out. They probably are saying like, hey, alright, you definitely have this one. And he's like, yeah, look, I have the Swallowed Snitch in my hand. And I was going to get you with this combo anyway, but you started removing my lessons, but you're definitely done. You know, it kind of showed him that, like, even over like 5 turns I could do this, but in 4 turns you're just going to draw out. I think this is us just kind of talking it out here because obviously we can't play this card. We don't have any lessons in play. I think we're just kind of chatting about the end of the game here. This is another great game. I mean, hey, we saw Quidditch do Quidditch things. The bludgers being really relevant, coming in and doing plenty of damage. I love that Swallowed Snitch is basically the game ender here. We're seeing him kind of tread water in the middle of the game by just generating effect with things like dodging the bludger. Really, really cool to see how these revival cards have been just snaking their way through these old lists that we kind of know and just breathing a lot of new life into them. So, congrats to Stefan taking this round with his Quidditch deck 2-1 against the Transfiguration control list down here being piloted by Huamin. So that's going to be round 2 for us, guys. And tune in for the next video where we go to finals and see who's at table 1, who's going to take this bad boy 3-0 this week at our very first Wizarding Wars event.